Hello, I'm Louise King. I'm zooming in from Gubby Gubby Country, obviously Sunshine Coast, hinterland. It's been my home for 22 years now. And I'm obviously going to be running the program, and I'm very excited to always welcome new people to the class program. So that's me. How about we start with Michael? Do you want to do a bit of a meet and greet for Catherine?
Sure, no worries. My name's Michael. I live in New Farm and have done so for about 27 years.
Wow, okay, cool.
I'm almost a local here, I think. I don't know what qualifies a local, but there's some long-term people here in New Farm who might argue about that 27 years. I'm looking forward to, I played cello when I was at school, played it throughout work. I worked in a school, so played it with students in ensemble groups and so forth. Haven't touched it for a number of years, so quite rusty. So my New Year's goal this year was to get back into cello and pick up a bit of skill level.
Yeah, great. And of course, Michael, we haven't worked together yet, so it's always wonderful to meet newbies. So thank you for jumping on the program. And thank you, that was a beautiful introduction. Catherine, would you like to just jump in with a similar intro?
Sure. Do I have a video or not? Can you see me or not?
No, you're in a beautiful kind of haze, but perhaps that's how you would like to be, very abstract and artistic.
Yeah, let's keep it at that. So I'm in Brisbane, have been here for years, and I have very limited musical background, but I have been playing the cello on and off for about 10 years. And I've had a bit of, I went to the retreat, Louise's wonderful retreat.
Recently in January, that's right.
Learned a lot there, thinking about practice as we speak. And looking forward to the intermediate, maybe if I can handle it, the ensembles at Red Hill. So I guess you're going there too, Michael. The Red Hill, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Great.
And I had a practice session on Monday with Jean, Ellen, and I've forgotten the other woman's name.
Maybe Robin?
Yes, Robin.
Yay! Well, welcome to the community.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually share my screen. I'm just going to go into my slide deck. So just give me a second. I'm just going to pull that up. Okay, so let's just talk you through what will happen on the 1st of February. Everyone's going to be receiving this particular participant welcome kit. It'll be a PDF, and it will have a lot of the information that I frequently asked questions that I often tend to field at this time of year, particularly for newbies. We have a significant number of newbies in the program this year, which is exciting, and predominantly in the beginner and intermediate stream, which is wonderful. So we're going to just quickly whiz you through basically what the class program is about, a bit of values and culture. You generally will know a little bit about me already, but perhaps why I run the program is going to be of interest. A little bit about how to maximize your experience. So this, as I said, is going to be in there for you. But for the last 30 years, I've been designing education programs, really all about trying to build social connection. And this is a very unique program. You might not be aware, but it's the only Australian and New Zealand program of its kind. Now, first little activity for both of you. Can you resonate with any of these top 5 challenges as musicians, as basically practitioners of learning an instrument? Have you actually come across any of these 5 in your own personal practice time? Please jump in and speak to the screen if you would like to.
Fear of failure is big on my list.
And what about you, Michael? Have you got any of those that resonate for you?
I'd probably say lack of time for practice and probably the fear and fear of failure. Yeah.
Okay, yes. And to be honest, those two tend to be the most, I suppose, top challenges for adults. But I think also what's important about it is sometimes it's unrealistic expectations. I think we often set the bar very high as adults. And often we're very concerned about slow progress, and actually comparison tends to creep into a class group situation much more than you would do obviously in a one-to-one. When you're learning with a master teacher one-to-one in a traditional sense, you don't really have that sense of kind of traction against other people's progress. Whereas, of course, with youth immersion programs in particular, particularly in private schools in particular, it's all about trying to keep people on the same page, moving through together. So there is a cohort at the end of the year that are welcomed into the program generally. Do either of you have any younger people in your community or family who've gone through kind of those immersion programs at school, Michael or Catherine?
No.
So it's a very normal thing as a string teacher to be trained in youth development, but actually I'm fascinated in adult development, which is why I've designed this class. So, of course, one of the most important things for full-time workers in particular, like Michael, is lack of time for practice. So I talk a lot in the class about how to chunk things down. You might do this already in your natural work environment, but most adults will sit there for way too long, generally 20 minutes max for a beginner before your body starts to feel it, or also your brain starts to fry. I find a lot of adults kind of think it should be an hour at least. But I've always worked in 20-minute power blocks, and then I just generally walk around the space or make myself a cup of tea or do a bit of a stretch, check an email. And I find that those 20-minute blocks for me work really well. And of course, I just couple a lot of those bundled together. A very important part of the program is actually keeping a track of your practice time. And yes, metric can be time bound. But actually, I think what's very important about measuring practice is also the quality of the practice. So we talk a little bit about strategies around that. What could you be listening for? What should it feel like? How do you know it's actually working? So another solution in the program, we talk about the short-term goals, getting very clear on actually what does it look like from February class to, say, November class. And that really helps, I think, bring people further through the program into the intermediate and, of course, then into the ensembles. I also want to talk a little bit about the next circle going around, which is diverse repertoire. I think it's very important to note that the ensemble program builds ensemble skills from the very early stages. Even in beginner class, you're going to be working in duo, trio, or even quartet kind of blocks. So I really rely heavily on those adults who are more experienced in the beginner group, who are maybe kind of rusty and coming back to the instrument, to really, in many ways, play more of a teacher role with playing melody-based work, while potentially other students might be playing more simple open string work, for example. But the diverse repertoire is tailored to the students of the cohort. So there is no fixed kind of program from one year to the next. So for example, everything that's going to be loading into the Google Drive for this 2025 program is totally different to last year. So I really enjoy picking repertoire tailored to the students that are in the cohort, particularly adult group, because I think that engagement, that diversity of repertoire keeps us engaged. And of course, what is very important about talking about building community is we all have to feel safe and supportive in that community. So there's a few guidelines we'll talk through in a minute. But that's also kind of dealing with that challenge that a lot of adults in particular deal with, which is fear of failure. However, of course, that is very predominant also in youth students as well. I don't think that's an age thing, but I think we can foster a very encouraging environment and be very constructive with our feedback. So those are the kind of ways that I holistically build in the class program. And of course, the key benefits are really about trying to talk a little bit about what is it like to be thinking like an artist, building ensemble skills, technique, and very importantly, goal setting. I think it's very important as well to think a little bit about how can you welcome others? Of course, many of us are coming to the class program for a variety of reasons, but a simple hello at the door or not always sitting next to the same person can actually really build that meaningful connection. And from class one, I encourage you to find a practice buddy. And a practice buddy is someone you can actually just rely on. And Catherine, you were just mentioning you already had an immersion, if you like, into the intermediate stream of people. And they really, some of them are very active in holding kind of cello play dates, really, a chance to kind of capture the learning from a class and kind of deepen that learning and enjoy playing together. But someone like Michael, for example, you might not have the time, the luxury of time, I'm thinking. Would you like to comment on that?
I will give it a good red hot crack as much as I can.
So I find that, of course, I'm dealing with a lot of professionals as well in the program. Some people, of course, are perhaps a medical practitioner or working at a hospital, shift workers. So the idea of a practice buddy, if they're in your community, direct suburb, fantastic. So I encourage you to kind of seek that feedback and support if it works for you. Now, of course, basically it's a monthly program. People think a whole year is a long time, but I'm just going to clarify, it's only 10 hours of my connection time with more support behind the scenes. So if you think about it, that's not actually a lot of time with a master teacher, but it does allow you to kind of have building blocks and a fast trajectory through the year with some check-ins with me and some feedback, which we'll talk about in a minute. What I'd like to also mention is, of course, it's run in 3 locations, Peregian, Noosa-based and Palmwoods. So there tends to be a shift in the cohort each time with numbers and fluctuations. It's a very flexible community. It's designed that way. An optional kind of extra is the class showcase and Christmas concert in December. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to have a very informal gathering of people in the class program, learn a couple of carols, and very importantly, showcase some of our hot picks from the program we've enjoyed playing and learning. So it's all about collaboration rather than competition. So those people who are scared or feeling fear might be a little bit more relieved about that. So this is where we get into the nuts and bolts of how I program the year. You can see straight away, I think in 3-month blocks for the first initial 9 months. So we've got the February, March and April, which in each class, there'll be fundamentals, exercises for each level, a scale and arpeggio for the month. I generally just keep quality rather than quantity. So it might just be 1 scale, for example. And then we often build improvisation around that new pattern or scale. And most adults have never done improvisation. And I really enjoy just giving you a few key ways in. It is a wonderful practice to have. It develops the ear more than anything and the creative spirit within us. You can see the first block is going to be really comparing the 2 wonderful things I think work well together, Baroque music, say Bach or Vivaldi, with folk music, Celtic music. And that's also to coincide with St. Patrick's Day. We'll do a bit of a feature in March of some Irish music there, which is wonderful kind of music to play actually, because it really does encourage the ear and multi-level parts straight away, kind of the idea of building an ostinato around a melody. Our second block will be May, June and July, and very similar kind of process, but this time focusing more on the romantic era. So lovely kind of slow melodies by Dvorak perhaps, and some kind of more modern pop songs, which I think are really also very melodic based, teaching the idea of how to phrase like a singer. But generally kind of slow legato work, great for those intermediate or advanced players who want to develop their kind of vibrato and expression. August, September, October, our third block is very similar in terms of technical coverage. But again, we're working on 2 contrasting things, classical era, such as Mozart, with a living composer. I'm a proud advocate for particularly women, female composers, so I do a bit of a focus on that during that block. Now, November is where we review all of that big chunk of learning, those 3 kind of pillars, and we tend to have a bit of a chat about what worked, what didn't. We have a vote on top picks from the repertoire, and we very importantly learn some Christmas tunes. Sometimes people don't stay all the way through the program. Some people are only 3, 5 or 8 classes. But this year, I'd say 6% are 10 classes, which is great. So hopefully there'll be a bit of consistency through that year. And then, as I said, December will be about that optional end of year class showcase. And those dates have been set. All right, so now we talk a little bit about values and culture. All right, I think it's important that we really have a nurturing and inspiring space for everyone. So these are just some key values and cultural kind of expectations when we're coming into the space. You will be able to read this at length, and by all means, please do get back to me if there's anything there that you would like to question me on. But I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about community stewardship and professionalism. Punctuality is important. There are often, situations, curveballs in life where you literally can't find a car park, for example, or something else has happened. But I think, regardless of what's happened in your day, when you come into the space, let's just maintain a really positive attitude and be very respectful of that learning experience for others. All right, so this is homework challenges. I'm thinking you can hear this. I can't hear it on mine, but I think you can hear it on your end.
Each group of 4 in a beat. So really important that you're kind of feeling that part 4 locked in.
Can you hear that, Michael and Catherine?
It's very soft.
Let's see if I can put that a bit.
And you're playing on the missing semiquaver, so it should be.
Has that improved it at all?
No.
No, I turned it up on the computer, so I'm okay.
That's okay. You should be able to hear it on the recording better. I did check this earlier. But basically, I'll just pause that video. Each month, this is an optional idea, and it's something that was being requested in the last 2 years of building the program from within the cohort. Rather than just having a month spare, in between those months, I set little challenges from the class 1, for example. It might be learn the canon by Gabrielli and really get great at this particular articulation or bowing. And what's important about that is you can actually choose, if you want to, be brave, put up your video for feedback in the private group, which is a Facebook private group. Many of us don't want to be on Facebook, and that's totally okay. So what I do for those people who are not on social media, I provide an iCloud video link of some of those kind of challenges I've set. But it's very important that we have support between the month to make your practice creative, rewarding, and focused on the program music. Okay, so this is a little bit of community praise, a few little case studies. Maya, she's now over in Germany. She teaches the cello over there now, but she was a member of the youth program. And she started and was so very, very shy and had never experienced anything other than her school orchestra and had never actually played anything other than D major or G major. And then when she came to the youth program, she realized there was so much more creative pathways available to her. And she now singer-songwrites, she does a lot of working with bands, and she loves improvising and writing her own music. So it's been a joy to see her blossom. Wendy, Sunshine Coast-based artist and part of the adult program. And I think for her, being an artistic person generally, she's very fascinated in process and how you draw from within to make something really expressive. So she's always a joy to talk to about creative practice. Michael Knopf is the father of Lily here. And because he's a composer, he understands it a little bit more from that point of view of, again, discovering the magic of music and not having a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. So for you guys on the Zoom call, this is how you can get, I think, the most out of your experience. Even if you're joining us for just 3 or 5 classes, come prepared. I know that sounds obvious, but things like this can really stress us out, like what to pack in the car. So cello, bow, rosin. Yes, you're going to need a rock stop because it's quite a slippy floor. You're going to need a foldable music stand because it's a community hall, not a school. Some of you might be iPad bound. Some of you might be more A4 folder analog, where you're going to need something to put your resources in. And just so you know, I expect people to print the resources from the Google Drive. I don't actually print to bring. So everything's loaded in on the 1st of February. And for the next class in February, you'll be able to just print. And if there's any problems with printing anything, just send me an email and we can manage it together. So number 2, engage with your cohort, your team players. I think that's really important, particularly to kind of start building accountability and also help you get motivated. I think it's also such a joy, the first class. It's always wonderful to see everyone starting to build connections. So I manage that with some icebreakers. And then I think after the first class, things start to feel a little easier. Number 3, practice. It sounds obvious, but you're going to only get traction if you put the consistent effort in. So do it consistently and regularly. And if you're having practice kind of problems, talk to the cohort, talk to me, and sometimes we just make that a Q&A moment so we can really troubleshoot a few ideas and share around the group. There are a lot of class resources that will be coming at you. Not everything might be relevant for you, but it's there because particularly adults are a very wide range of skills. Some people might be very comfortable reading music, some people will not at all. So there might be even some theory to boost those people's learning. Stay positive, number 4. Totally, mindset is key. And I do want to remind you that progress looks different for everybody. There is no falling behind in this program. All right, so the online community aspect, which is where I get asked a lot of questions, it is only optional, it's not mandatory, but it is definitely to be encouraged. It is a private Facebook group, and the only people in there are people who I directly work with, have been part of the retreat, workshops, or masterclasses, or potentially cello teachers we've had to inspire the community across the last 5 years, okay? So there's a little bit more on privacy and participation. If you are not on social media, some members are doing things like WhatsApp connection groups. You can decide amongst yourselves how you want to do that. I generally don't partake in those kind of communities. They've got too many things to do. Videos, monthly homework challenges, definitely they come from me, but I also would love you to start building that in. This is a little bit about me. If you didn't know about me, that's my profile. And here's the juicy bits. Terms and conditions, T's and C's, don't we just love them? I get asked a lot about things like attendance. So, for example, if you miss a class, your spot will not be refunded or rescheduled because the class is in action. Participants can choose to attend a class or at one of the alternate occasions for that month. So sometimes I find a lot of the Sunshine Coast cohort actually have friends or family in Brisbane, so they might pop into the Brisbane class, for example. There are no lesson exchanges. Missed classes cannot be substituted for private lessons or additional sessions. And because there are so many resources that come to you directly from me via videos or teacher video feedback or more resources like challenge pieces, I find that most people get very obsessed with that. And that's kind of how I want to keep you running through. So remember, this is all about enriching your creative practice, and it is not intended to replace individual coaching or regular private lessons. I actively co-teach with a huge number of colleagues. This is not designed to be a one-to-one experience. It is about learning how to work in a group. And I would really recommend, if you don't have a current teacher, to think a little bit about that. Talk to the cohort. There's plenty of wonderful teachers in your community. So that's basically the run of it. The class Q&As tend to be at the end of a session, just because otherwise with adults, the question can tend to be kind of often long and convoluted, quite an open question. And I don't want to necessarily waste 10 minutes at the start answering it. So kind of reserve your Q's and A's for the end of a class. This is our motto: forward momentum, progress, not perfection. And I think that is very important, particularly when we are an older age. Now, this is the Q&A moment, which is exciting. So I'm about to kind of stop sharing and see if we have any questions. Thank you for your patient listening. And that would have been, of course, for Catherine and Michael. So I'm now back to my normal self. We'll go to gallery view and hit me up. We've got a few more minutes left. So have you got any questions for me? No questions from Michael. No questions from Catherine. Wow. Please do use the time.
I don't really, like you've gone through a lot of material, and what I'm sort of missed there, I'll catch up when you send it through, and I'll read it.
Fantastic. Yes, often just revisiting that material is great. Is there anything there that's surprising you or you're concerned about? Please do to mention it. All good? Otherwise, the next steps for you guys is just know on the 1st of February, there will be an email to everybody, which will also include the Google Drive links. And that's when, click on it. If there's any issues accessing material or you're not sure where to go within that Google Drive, just send me another email and I can totally point you in the right direction. But I'm thrilled to have you on board. Well, enjoy your evening. So no questions at all?
No, it made perfect sense.
Wonderful. Well, there you
done.
go. That was worth me doing my little slide deck then, wasn't it? Welcome to the program. And I look forward to meeting you in person, Michael, and welcome back, Catherine. And yes, the beginner class is quite big this time. Intermediate is also on the big side in Brisbane. But that's fun because remember, not everyone can actually make every class. So the first ones tend to look very huge, and then we tend to drip off towards the end of the year because life gets in the way, right? But it's going to be a lot of fun. So you enjoy your evening. I'm going to zoom on out. Bye, Catherine, and bye, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for joining me.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.